both ways. So this is currently going to YouTube. So I'm just going to check on YouTube Live. It's not showing up yet. Please, please, please show up. Hold on.
I haven't logged into
something is showing up that something's coming. So that's good. If I click on that, there we are. Okay, perfect. We are there. So I'll just come back to you, Irene. So okay, got my volume back on. I can see people coming in. Hi, everybody. I don't know if you can see this too, Irene, if you've got comments on, but I can see people.
No, I'm sorry, I'm with you. Oh, so we've got comments on Zoom as well. Where are they? In the
No,
chat?
not on Zoom, just on
No.
YouTube.
No, I haven't got YouTube up, Louise. Should I have?
No, it doesn't really matter. I can just see them. I've got both up. So I've got YouTube up on one side and I've got our Zoom. I've kind of squished the screen so the comments are going along the side and I can see the screen. So hi, everybody that's coming in. Oh, Carol's in Sutton in Craven. That is literally like 2 miles from my house.
Yeah, it sounds
I'm
very
in
remote.
Lothersdale, Carol, so very close to you. I used to take my dog for a walk around Sutton in Craven before he started refusing to walk, and then it became quite annoying. So, lovely to see people from America, from Canada, from Germany, from Sweden, from Kansas City, from Wales, from Australia. Donna, shouldn't you be asleep? Bit worried about you. Very glad you're here, but a bit worried.
Sorry, Louise.
That's okay. Hi, Kate. You are very welcome. I saw a thank you whiz by before the comments moved really quickly. Once we get talking, what would be fabulous, it's lovely to see everyone saying hi, but it would be fabulous if we could keep the chat for questions or comments to each other. Helpful if somebody has a question and you've got a solution for them, definitely share it. But it's hard for us if it's everybody saying hi. Once we get going on our conversation, it's hard for us to find the questions. So that's not for us to be unsociable, just for us to make sure we get to as many people's questions as possible. So I am here with the lovely Irene Purcell. Hi, Irene.
Hello there, Louise, and everyone else.
We're both in the same part of the UK. Well, not, but we're in the north of the UK. So we're generally in a vicinity from each other. We could get to each other within probably 2.5 hours in an emergency.
Yeah.
So closer than I've been to some people I've done these calls with. And Irene, how long have you been coaching with me now?
Since you first took on coaches, I did the course in 2019. In 2020, you took coaches on.
Was it 2020? I don't remember which year it was.
Yeah. Oh, well, because it was like my time. I obviously.
Yeah, so it was 4 years. Yeah.
My fifth.
I remember that I did it once on my own. It was really small. Then I did it once and it got bigger.
That was
so that would have been 2019. And then I remember saying to Jamie, oh my God, it's too big. What am I going to do? And panicking and going, Irene, Anne, and else, Sarah.
It was Irene, Anne, Sarah, Marie Louise, I think.
Yeah, Libby.
And so I think there was just the 5 of us.
Was it just 5 initially?
In 2020, and then Sarah recommended Cheryl for the following year because Cheryl had given her loads of backup. So it was a wonderful surprise to be asked. And the great thing has been the learning over this. And I'm in my 5th year now, so I'm a veteran. And it's just been a great experience.
And that learning is what I wanted to start off talking about. I'm just going to pull up my notes because I had a question that came in actually on YouTube. So after this live call is over and the chat ends, people leave comments under the recording, people who couldn't be here live or people who watch it again. And one of the comments was from Jennifer. And she was actually asking Anne and I, but and we didn't see it in time because this is after the event. But she's asking how our lives affect our art, and can we see growth in our life when we look at our painting progression, and could we share an example? And so I thought, if you'll indulge me, everybody, for a moment, I think I can really give a good example of this. When I first started painting, I knew that I wanted to paint abstracts that were very emotional, very free, very loose, really like crazy, but contained, like that I wanted to use color properly and have a good composition and all of that, but I wanted it to feel really visceral and hit you when you experienced it. And yeah, I found that really difficult. And what I've realized over the years is that I am quite controlling, believe it or not. Here I am leading a group of thousands of people. Who would have thought? I am quite controlling. I do like to be in charge. I do like to make sure my life is going in the direction I think it should. And that has presented me with a lot of problems over the years, because often the people in your life don't necessarily want to read from the script that you've written for them or go in the direction that you've decided, or they certainly don't want to go as fast as you want to go or as certainly as you want to go. And also sometimes the direction you've set for yourself wasn't actually the right one. It was you trying to force things instead of allowing. And that is how I am in life, or have been. That is what showed up in my painting. So even though I wanted to be free and expressive and loose and have my inner self come out on the canvas, I was also controlling it, shaping it, making sure it was. And I didn't get until very, very recently, like the last few weeks, to a place where I was actually letting loose completely in my painting all the time. So anytime I feel control coming up now, I throw some paint at the canvas, I do something crazy, I mess it up again. And I am hoping that that is going to help me in life to get better at letting life flow rather than trying to manage it all the time. It's a safety thing, isn't it, for those of us? My friend doesn't call it control freak. She calls it control enthusiast. I'm a control enthusiast. It makes me feel safe to be in control, but it's not really, you're not really in control ever. And life keeps reminding me of that constantly with things happening to friends of mine and relations, and life just does what life's going to do. So the reason I brought this up, and I want to throw this to you as well, Irene, but we are observing people in the course expressing all kinds of issues and struggles and challenges, as well as people having a whale of a time and having no struggles, which is fabulous. And if you guys will just indulge the other people for a few minutes, we'll talk about the people who might not find it so easy because they need a bit of a hand. And what I want to say to you is, whatever you see happening in your painting process, I guarantee it's also happening in your life. So if you are anxious about not making a mistake in a painting, I know that's happening in your life. You're anxious in your life about getting things right. If you are very constrained and always play by the rules and in your painting and always stay within the lines and keep everything controlled, I'm sure you do the same in life. And if you're very fearful of adventure in painting, you're probably also fearful in some parts of your life of adventure and risk. And that is why, that is the magic of changing the way you paint, because you cannot go backwards from what you learn from painting. So even though I still have tendencies to be very, want to control things, I'm much more aware now because of my painting of when it's showing up for me in life that, oh, time, what I do now is I ring my best friend who knows me better than anyone, and I say, I want to do that thing again where I try and, declare what's going to happen and move everything forward before it's ready to be moved forward. And then he goes, well, there's no need to, is there? You could just gently move in the direction. So painting constantly teaches me. And I'm wondering, A, for you, Irene, and also what you've observed in the group in this last few days around this topic. I know
Yeah.
I've just thrown a giant thing at you, but
No, that's fine. That feels like my territory, Louise. Because what you've just described is the way that an art practice will act as a mirror for you. So it shows you yourself. It can't not, because you are you, and what makes you up, your habits, your past experiences, your tendencies, your fears, whatever makes you up has to come out when you create something, whether it's a business or a painting or a home, whatever you create. If you look at it, it is showing you what you're like. So it can't not. And that's the first thing, that after years of doing this as well and saying these things to people many times over, it almost seems as though it should be jumping out at them, clear and obvious. Oh, I'm struggling. That must be because I've got something in me that's being reflected back at me from, the art I'm trying to make. And actually, it isn't obvious at all until you
no.
start to dig into it, poke it a bit, and say, why? And I've said this to a couple of people actually today. I've said, ask yourself the question, why? Why am I bothered about this being right? Why am I bothered about it not going the way I wanted it to? Someone was talking about being annoyed and angry with themselves. And a great way to do that, of course, is to write it down. Not everybody likes writing, but if you do write down, I want to know why I am always this and I am that. Why? And something will come up and you answer you give it as an answer, and then you go, yeah, but why? And you give another answer. Yeah, but why is that? And you can dig yourself way back to original sources.
Yes.
And original sources, people in psychology and trauma work and so on and so on and so on are just coming out now more and more boldly and saying, listen, folks, you're all traumatized to some degree from your original beginnings in life, and just accept it and look at yourself, and there is a way through it. So there's
Because,
that.
because one of the things I see people do, and this is not to criticize anyone, because we've all done this when we start off realizing how this all works. People will say in the group either, I feel this way about this. Does anyone else feel that way? Which is like putting it outwards and getting
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
the word? Getting
I'm trying to,
reinforcement
yeah.
for your feeling, rather than saying, oh, what can I do about this feeling? It's going, oh, does anyone else feel like me? So we can all go together. And the other thing is saying, well, that's just, somebody said, and I commented this afternoon, someone said, that's me. I'm very tight and controlled. That's me. And I said, it doesn't have to be though. Like, we have these stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, and they are a protection, and they are an excuse. Like, okay, well, I'm just that way. So, and I have a friend who does this all the time. Love him to bits, but he goes, well, that's just the way I am. And I say, it doesn't have to be. And he goes, well, I just am. That's me. I'm just that way. And it frustrates me because no one's ever just that way.
That's right.
If you are that way at the moment, but if you don't want to be that way, you don't have to be that way. You can choose to start practicing a different way. And I think we don't realize that a lot.
That's true. We don't realize that. It's a mystery to us until someone gently opens a door and says, do you know what? That could change if you wanted it to. We can't hammer it into people.
No.
We can't shout at the scared people and say, stop being so scared. It's only pain. Sorry, but they're scared. It's
Yes.
how they feel. It's where they're at. And it takes gentleness for a lot of people and a lot of time as well. But we can help people to open those little doors, even in an 8-day free art course,
Yeah.
which is amazing, isn't
Yes, we can.
it?
And for those who are thinking, oh God, is there something wrong with me because I don't feel like that?
Mm,
Both Irene and I didn't feel like that. We didn't feel scared of painting. We were just talking about this before we came
yeah,
on. We felt
yeah.
perfectly free to play. And so there's nothing wrong with you if you don't have those fears, and there's nothing wrong with you if you do have those fears.
So,
It's just we're all but if you don't have those blocks and fears, you will, like me, have something else that your art is showing you.
yes.
Just will.
Yes. Well, I came to art, you see, as we talked about before, as a quite a confident person. I'd already done many years of the digging and the diving deeply into me, what made me as I am. And I'd had this very powerful controller persona, right? And made my way through life like that. And there was a great big sign that was all wrapped around me. Do not pass.
Mhm.
You will not be pleased if you pass, and try to challenge me. So I had that persona, and that was getting peeled away, but slowly, because it was a massive protection for this tiny little scared, wounded child inside of me.
Mhm.
So I worked on that, worked on that, worked on that. So when I knew, oh, I want to paint, and I had this idea that it was what I'd learned about life. And it was quite simply, everything is connected. I could see that everything in life was connected, people and thoughts and things that have happened to us and the way the world works. And I just wanted to express that somehow. Now imagine, it's pretty much the same, Louise, as the one you sometimes say, the meaning of life. Yeah, how can you express that? But with some teaching on art principles, uh, I was able to start making some better shape out of some of the daft stuff that I was making. I learned things fast, and I was confident
Welcome
in
to my
teaching.
channel. I'm Louise
Oh,
Fletcher,
sorry.
and I
Sorry.
It's all right. I learned things quickly that were being taught to me, and I was confident in applying them. And it looked as though being confident made me very free. But in actual fact, I still had to learn freedom in my art. So we can start with a head start on certain things, but it's taken me, like I've only been painting 6 years, but it's taken me a good 5 of them or more to get to where I really don't give a damn. And I really just mess about, and something comes out and it doesn't get judged. And I love it simply because it looks like me. It's weird and it's unexpected, but that took years. And the self-development side of things, which continues to deepen and help in life in all circumstances, obviously helps in art as well.
Yeah. And so for me, how it looks now is what I realized is if I want to express raw, honest, authentic things,
Mhm.
I have to paint in a raw, honest, authentic way. And actually, what that's starting to look like is putting gloves on and painting with my hands. It's using big sponges, dripping with water. It's anything where I can take my own control out of it and literally just not allow myself in to like to let something else come through. It's taken so long to work that out.
Yep.
And so when we get people, and I just answered somebody before I came on who was saying, it's, day 2 and I haven't found my style. I feel like I've had a distinct style at all the stages of development. So you do have a style. We all have a style. You can't help that. I showed that on the last call when I went through all the images. You just have an innate style,
Mm.
but it changes constantly, and you're always getting a bit closer to what it is you wanted.
Yeah.
And some of us get there faster than others. I'm quite slow at it dawning on me how to do this. But this is the reason why I feel like I'm so good at teaching this to other people, is because it is my struggle. I'm not here as like the, oh, well, I don't have a problem with this, so I can show you, because what use is that? And all of the
Yeah.
coaches are the same.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. I'm going to go back to the beginning and look. We've got some questions coming in, and I will read them out and we can just chat about them.
Great.
I'm not going to answer any questions about the full course. But Irene, I want you to remember to remind me that we have to give away a place on that course. But if you have questions about that, they're going to get answered on the 6th and after the 6th. So I'll just ignore those. But that's not to be rude. It's just because I really want this to be focused on what we're teaching you now for free. Besides anything else, what we're teaching you now is the foundation of everything that goes on in that course. It's like 101, and then we move on from here. So you can't be skipping it. Sorry.
No, I just want to underline again, Louise, as one of your coaches, this free week is so rich. And for anyone who hasn't done any other course before, I just underline how lucky you are that this is the one you've started with.
Yes.
It's rich. And although some of this, what we're talking about, sounds a bit like scary psychology, I don't want that stuff. That's okay. But this is like, let's just hit the basics. Let's just speak the truth right from day one.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so question, I've just found one, and I apologize, we won't get to everyone, but I'm going to do my best to do as many as I can. Nikki's finding lots of freedom, using new tools, mark making, going big, but still fears around deciding what to paint, and it's freezing me. Tips. So just, my tip is just don't worry about it. Paint anything, paint a giraffe, paint a bowl of fruit, paint a flower, paint an abstract, paint. It doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go on. Someone today, just choose. Doesn't matter. I said, drag something off the edge of your table, paint it. If you have got no burning desire, oh, I really want to do lovely trees, or I really want to paint the meaning of life, then start on that. But if you've got nothing to start with what's sitting in front of you. And after one go, you might go, oh my God, I do not want to paint realistic bloody plants. Not at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll think of the sea and see what happens, you know.
Yeah. And then if you don't like that, try painting your spouse. And then if you don't like that, try painting an abstract, and just try things. Nikki, the fear that you've got is coming from the feeling that you got to be good, because if you didn't care what it looked like, you wouldn't have a problem deciding. So it goes back to what Irene was saying about digging in and trying to work out what's going on underneath that. Janice says, if you enjoy the joy of painting, can you be considered a serious artist? So if you're not miserable when you're doing it, you can't be a serious artist. First of all, I don't even know what a serious artist is.
That's great, because what I was going to say was, take your art seriously. This is important to me, but don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
It's like, this is important to me, but hey, I made something really stupid looking, and it doesn't matter at all, because it isn't. It's not important that I look good. It's only important that my art is important, and I do it,
If you think of the word joy and replace it with flow, as in being in flow, you take someone like Tracy Emin, paints very sometimes painful personal things, paints in a really aggressive way, says that sometimes she sobs and cries and screams while she's painting. You might think, oh, there's a miserable person. But she also says, I wouldn't do anything else with my life. I love painting more than anything on earth. She's doing the type of painting that makes her feel in flow. She isn't forcing herself to do something that doesn't feel good to her. What people like her, who were making authentic art from the moment she was at art school or David Hockney, what they have different from us is that for some reason they just had a channel to be honest from the beginning without any filters. And we have all our bollocks to get rid of first before we can get there. That's the way I think of it.
You're dead right. You're dead right. Filters. And when I talk about how I started painting as a confident person, it's not that I didn't have any filters, and I had to get rid of all those vestiges of giving a damn. And once they were just kind of pretty much gone, it's taken these 6 years, but it has taken time to remove. We get down deeper, and the veils, the obstacles become thinner and thinner and more wispy and easier to dislodge on the route to freedom, I think.
Yes, yes, I love it. So, and as for being a serious artist, who gets to decide that? And really, who cares? I mean, I don't have any illusions that my work is going to be in MoMA with people doing this and looking at it and writing dissertations about it. Maybe it will long after I'm gone, but I don't imagine so. I don't think we have to think about that or worry about that. We're not going to be curated or reviewed by The Guardian or curated by a museum. We're looking at painting for an audience, maybe if we want to sell our work, maybe for galleries, if we want to be in galleries, maybe for ourselves, for pleasure. But all I can say is there will always be people who like what you do if it's authentic and honest and will take you seriously.
That's it.
Good question came up, and where is it? Caroline, I don't know how you feel about this, Irene, but my painting urge comes in bursts with blank periods between when I'm afraid I've lost inspiration for good. What do you do to get inspiration when you get to the end of a body of work? So what I used to do, Caroline, is try and control it by pushing through and trying to do more, and it never worked because I didn't have any inspiration. Now what I do is I don't paint. Maybe I work in a sketchbook, maybe I don't, maybe I do other things, maybe I focus on my teaching or take the dog for a walk or work in the garden, and I wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
The last blank patch was I went to California in April. I came back and I had a blank patch until 2 weeks ago. So May, June, July, nothing, and then it's back. And I'm really inspired again. So I think everyone's different. How are you, Irene? What is it like for you?
Yeah, I had quite a long spell, and I'm talking about years, when it just kept happening. Painting just kept happening, just kept happening. And it's funny because, I dived into painting, and then it went whoosh, and it kept on happening, and I made loads and loads and loads of work, and then it went stop. My painting stopped dead. Now, along the way, if I didn't know what to paint next, if I didn't know what to work on next, I'd still spend time in the studio, even if I wasn't making any work. So I'd tidy up, or I'd reorganize, or I'd prepare some panels for the next lot of paintings. There would be a connection to the studio, the place where I work, even if I wasn't making work. So I always think that it tempts you. It can tempt you back if you're there where the stuff is,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes.
I stopped painting, but I got a little ooh out of an art juice one day when you and Alice were talking about, I can't remember the whole episode, but it was to do with drawing in a sketchbook. And Alice just said something like, of course, what we call drawing, it doesn't have to be things. And it just hit me, I just needed drawing materials in my hands and
Yeah.
sketchbooks. And I just started making what I now look back on as intuitive and exploratory drawing. It's kind of got a name for itself now, and
Yeah.
that's what I call it. I'm an intuitive exploratory artist. And you know what? Something wanted to come out and repeat itself and repeat itself and repeat itself. And that was the start of a whole new arm of my art practice, which is much more focused on drawing and on paper and reclaimed paper and cardboard and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, just taking, I wasn't painting, what do I do next? And I just managed to hear that little tip and picked up some sketchbooks and started. And,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't
Yeah.
sat
So
back.
it just comes from
It happens, yeah.
and you can't force it, you can't push it, but you can refill the well, I think, give yourself
Yes.
a break, do other things. So Simone says, how do you start if you don't have a definite idea? So some artists have an idea and then they start. Some artists have a general theme or concept, but they don't know where they're going to start. Some have no concept and then just paint until something emerges. Um, so if you don't have any ideas at the moment, Simone, then you literally just start. Grab the first thing you can see and put some marks down.
Mhm.
Again, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? If you put something down you don't like, you will have ideas. The more you go through the process that I'm sharing of getting to know yourself, really getting deep into what you love, what you care about, you will start to get ideas for how you want to paint or what you want to paint. But when you don't have any, what could possibly go wrong? Because you've got nothing to mess up because you don't have an idea.
That's right. And the direction can literally be shown to you by the things that end up on the painting that you didn't plan. So not planning can be just as huge and valuable as having a plan and knowing what you want to make. As long
Yeah.
as you let yourself, without a plan, as long as you just let yourself do something and play around, something comes out of it eventually. And that's another thing, is the word eventually. Today's just doing anything might look like a dog's dinner. It doesn't matter. Chuck it on the side. You'll end up with a huge pile of dog's dinners. And then something will start to take shape.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yes. Yes. Dogs' dinners are fine. Just make a mess.
yeah.
Make lots of messes. In a previous course, in a previous year of the full course, I once filmed my drawers of shame, I called them, which is
Oh,
a big
yeah.
man chest full of bad things. Bad as in not being finished, not being good compositions, the colours not working, sometimes being ugly. Since then, I've put a lot of that stuff on a bonfire, so I don't have it to show anymore. But everybody has piles of really failed things in their studio and they're not showing it to you on Instagram because, well, why would they? But
Mm,
they do have it.
mm,
And we all do. And you have to have, how can you be good at something without practicing? And how
yeah,
can you practice without failing?
yeah.
Jennifer says, I feel this pull deep inside to create art of some sort. Did you both feel that pull?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, when I started, it was funny because over the years, I'd had a little class here and a little class there. I'd never stuck with art. I'd tried watercolors, I'd tried realism. I went to work on two separate workshop slash lessons, one to one with an artist, but hers was a paint along with me kind of thing. We were side by side, and she helped me choose an image, and she showed me how to apply the paint. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it was nice, but none of it set me on fire. None of it made me go, that's what I'll follow up. And then I think 2 years after I worked with her, I just thought, I want to work with acrylic paint. I just want to make abstract work. I just thought, yeah, I adore trees. I absolutely love trees, but I don't want to paint trees.
Mm,
I find them inspiring, but I find life inspiring. So for me, my inspiration was amorphous. It was like everything, it was the universe, it was the way everything in the universe was connected. And I just knew somehow I've got to paint that. And how could you do that in any way other than abstractly?
yeah. And I always have drawn and painted since I was a child. So I always wanted to, if I loved a football player when I was a kid, because I loved football, I'd have to draw them. I had to draw
Yeah.
all of the Leeds United team. Like anything I liked, I had to draw.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've turned my phone off. Sorry.
You sound like my grandson. Um, this is really difficult to see. They're still moving really fast.
The person ringing me is someone I said don't ring me between 6 and 7:30.
That always happens to you. They
I
come and
know.
knock on your
I said,
door,
don't ring me between 6 and 7:30, and they ring.
and they blanked out the word "don't."
Yeah, so yes, always, Jennifer, always had that pull to do it, and finally I get to do it properly.
Yeah.
Um, what? Oh, that's a course question. Oh, there was a great question here. There's two I want to pull together.
Right.
One is hang on. One is Honora, who says, I'm chaotic busy in life and my paint seems to reflect that. How do I rein it in so I'm not racing ahead? PU Cell says, do you think it's possible for a person with severe disabilities who has severe weakness in their hands and is not able to make neat drawings to be a successful abstract painter? So the way I want to tie both of these together is you're saying, I'm unique and special in these ways. How can I be like everyone else? Is it possible for me to be like everyone else? And I just want to say, no, be you with weak hands. Do your work with weak hands.
Yeah.
Somebody asked the other day about, well, I'm colorblind or I have macular degeneration, and how can I do portraits? Do the portraits with the degeneration so we can see through your eyes what you see.
It is said, isn't it, that some of is it Van Gogh's work is a result of him not being able to see properly?
Ah, right.
You
Yeah.
know, he might have been actually seeing it like that.
Yes.
His eyes.
Some of his things, like Starry Night, looks like my migraines. I always wondered if he had
Yes,
migraines
yes,
sometimes
yes. It
because
does. Yeah, I get
um,
that. Yeah,
I
I don't
never paint my migraines, but that would be interesting. So, and for Honora, you say your life is chaotic and busy, and you feel like you need to rein it in. And maybe you feel that you say you race into the end of your paintings and you'd like to not do that. In that case, I'd say work on several all at the same time so you can move between them. But don't rein yourself in to be who you're not, because other people who feel busy and chaotic and like that and like a chaotic life will respond to your artwork because they're seeing themselves in your work. If
yeah.
you go, oh, I'm going to be like someone who's really calm and pretend to be someone else, we're not getting you, are we? We're getting a fake you.
Right. And I love the simplicity of your answer to the lady with the weak hands. Paint with your weak hands. It's just like it's no bar.
Yeah,
It's people who don't have arms paint with their feet. People
yeah,
people paint with their mouths. Um, I'm not using that as any form of criticism at all. More empowerment, actually.
yes. Because
If
what
all
you do will look different from everyone
It
else.
will be so different.
Yeah,
Absolutely. If all you can do is scoop some paint up with your hands because you can't hold a brush, then do it that way. You know, it's just like whatever you can manage is 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 more of your uniqueness,
yeah.
actually, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Annette says that I just want to touch on this because Annette says, I'm quite an anxious person, but over the last couple of days, I've found this art course is a way of release for me. I am loving every second. And there's a book called Your Brain on Art.
Yeah.
Have you read it, Irene? It's
I
amazing.
haven't I haven't read it. I didn't get that, but I understand why it would
Amazing.
be a great read for some people. Yeah.
Lots of science about what happens to our brain when we both look at art or listen to
Yes.
music or go to a play, and when we perform in a play, make music, paint, etc. The chemicals that are released in our brain, I don't know the science, I've forgotten half of it now, but it's amazing. Like we actually can change our heart health
Hmm.
by being creative.
Hmm.
So people don't realize because I don't say much about it. I have chronic pain. I have anxiety, or I used to be very anxious. I'm not as bad now because paintings really help me. When I'm in chronic pain, when I'm feeling anxious, either of those times, what I do is paint. if I possibly can, or just work in my sketchbook, do a little collage. It dissipates. Or write, actually, writing really helps as well. Anything creative. It's so good for us, and a lot of you have commented on feeling that you don't feel like doing it, but then when you do it, you feel so much better. That's actually because endorphins are being released into your brain. You are getting a drug when you make something.
Yeah.
Advice here, I'm going to throw this to you, Irene. Pam bought a ton of new supplies and now she's been completely paralyzed
Oh, bless.
because she's got new supplies. What would you say she needs to do?
Well, I think it was Anne said the other night that the only waste of supplies is when they haven't been opened.
Yeah.
So you can buy them and you can use them as ornaments and go about your life. Or you can buy them with your original purpose in mind and promise yourself, okay, today I'm going to open one bottle or one tube and I'm going to squeeze a bit out and I'm going to mush it about. And then I'll wait and see if it draws me to opening another tube. I mean, don't look at them all at once. Look at one, look at two, and just squeeze some out. You've got to get some out. You've got to get it out of its container. And pick a pencil, pick one thing from each of your different stashes and put them out, make them available, hide everything else, and then just get a bit of paper and start putting some stuff on. So what I'm saying, I suppose, effectively is limit yourself. You've bought new supplies and they're scaring you. Just pick one or two of them and promise yourself you're gonna do it.
And you're not going to try and do anything good with them.
No, absolutely not.
You're just going to cover some paper up with some stuff.
That's all. Cover a bit of paper up with a bit of this stuff that I've just bought. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to do some stuff on some paper. Jane says, I want to answer this one because the answer is definitely yes. Jane, did you ever feel so negatively about your own painting that you felt like giving up? And I was struggling to find my own style and voice before I ever found any teachers. And I entered our local open studios, which was juried, so not everyone could be accepted. And I was rejected. My work was rejected. And I felt like, and looking back, it should have been, I wasn't very good. I hadn't learned anything yet, but I didn't realize that. I thought it was great. So I went into a spiral, and somewhere I've got a sketchbook where I tried to do a drawing and it wasn't a very good drawing. And I wrote in big letters, this is why I got rejected. I am shit at this. I'm giving up. And for the following year, I only did self-portraits in a sketchbook. I did a year of self-portraits because I still felt like I wanted to do something, but I'd given up on the idea. But do you know why I gave up, Jane? Is because I was rushing to be good. It was ridiculous. I gave up because they quite rightly rejected me because I wasn't good enough yet. I would have been embarrassing for people to come and see the work I was doing then. But that only embarrassing because I would have been setting myself up as something I'm not. And actually, if I just enjoyed myself making paintings like I do now, I wouldn't care if they said yes or no to me being in open studios because I love what I'm doing. So if you can learn anything from me, it's do not be attached to the result the way you are. You're feeling discouraged because you don't like the finished result. Focus on learning. Focus on learning what you can learn and getting new techniques and learning about color and learning about composition and learning about yourself, and forget about being good. Being good will come.
Yeah, and that reminds me of that phrase, which I'm not sure who threw it into the Louise universe, but it's embrace your mediocrity.
Oh yes, it's in the full course. It's it's a writer.
That's right. I
can't remember her name. It's a writer, and she said that she was stuck on her novel, and the only way she could get past being stuck was when she just decided to say, "Okay, I'm not very good, so I'm gonna write a not very good novel, and
That's it.
Just gonna do it."
Of course, the message in this is wonderful and positive, but some people will hear that and say, but I've got ambitions to be really good. And we say, yes, yes, that's great.
Yes, and this is how you get really good.
However, you're not there yet. And then
Yeah.
we come back to what's his face with the gap, don't we?
Yes, the Ira Glass from
Ira Glass, it is
American Life.
here's your taste and your aspirations, and here's your skill at the moment. There's a great big gap between the two. And that's the way it's meant to be. Embrace that and just keep working.
Because that is the joy, is bringing yourself from where you are to where you want to be. And by the way, you're always doing it. So I've been painting seriously now for 10 years. And I've just said to you that I've just made a leap to somewhere I want to be.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
another 6 months, when I'm comfortable there, I'll be wanting to make a leap to somewhere else that I want to be. So we never get to the goal.
That's right. Yeah.
If you think you're going to get to a goal, you might want to give up now, because there is no getting there.
Mm.
But we get more in, we get to enjoy the journey once we realize. So just see where you are. Like Irene says, you're here, your taste is here, your skills are here, the gap's here. There's always that for all of
Yes.
us. Where
Yes.
however good you are, there's a gap between what you'd like to do next. And then enjoy learning. How can I get myself over that bridge? What do I need to learn? What do I need to practice? Just enjoy it. You know, take courses. If you can afford a course, take a course. If you find a good mentor locally, have a mentor. If you can't do those things, go on YouTube, read books. There's plenty of knowledge available for anyone who wants to learn. But because you're not where you want to be yet, that doesn't mean to give up. That's the last thing.
Yeah, that was the question, wasn't it? About, do you ever feel like giving up? Well, feeling like giving up's okay, but don't give up. You know, you can feel like that for a day. I'm shit, I'm crap, I just can't do it. I'm bleh, and walk out of the studio, but you walk back in the next day, because if you are wanting to make art, you are wanting to make art, and it won't leave you really. And you have to allow for all the ups and downs, don't you? Good times, bad times.
Mona says, any thoughts about repeating a successful play session into a real painting? I like the discovery phase and novelty in the play, but then it is not new any longer and I get a bit bored. So try, Mona, not to think of repeating what you did into a painting, because you never will, right? That what you did is full of the joy and energy and life of play. And now you're going to try and take that and make a stale copy. It's never going to work. Take the joy and energy of play onto the canvas, onto the real painting. That's the key.
That thing, yeah, my real painting. And
A real painting is like, I said this on the other call, but my teenage neighbor, when she was about 9, she had a canvas that her parents had given, and she told me, I'm saving this canvas for when I'm good enough to use it. She was really into art from a young age, and I don't know if she ever used it, because when are you ever going to get good enough to use the expensive canvas? So just, yeah, take the fun. The play is the painting. It should always be fun and experimental. You should always be trying something new in every painting, even just a little, maybe a slightly different color, maybe a different brush, maybe something to keep it lively and energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Scrolling down for more questions. How do you keep
Fast.
giving, Louise? Do you ever hit empty? Laurie says. This kind of giving, so teaching, is actually going back to that. How do you get inspiration? This gives me inspiration and energy to make my work.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hit empty is when I'm not actually doing this in any kind of authentic way. Maybe I've got bored and I'm making YouTube videos to teach for free, but my heart's not in it because I can't think of what to say. Then I might hit empty.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm doing this, which I passionately believe in, I wish every single person who did this free course could come with us and continue for the full thing, because it's what happens for people is so amazing. But it can happen after this 8 days if you stick to it on your own. Of course it can. You have to do the work. So this feeds me, and then I go paint. So I only hit empty when I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And that's from following the joy, by the way. Not everyone wants to do this, but I love doing this. So it feeds me, not tires me. Question, how do you know when your art is authentic, says Brenda? Do you just know? Yeah, I just think you know, don't you?
Yeah, it's when there's no attempt to copy someone else. There's no attempt to make a thing that you are secretly hoping someone else is going to like and want to buy. It's when you've discovered the freedom that we keep talking about of there's no fear approaching a big sheet of paper or a big canvas or a big board. There isn't any fear to approach it. And you just make a start on whatever it is you want to do, whether it be abstract or realistic. And all of that without blocks of fear and expectation and trying to be good and trying to please somebody else can only lead you to being authentic. You can't be inauthentic if you're following your own nose.
Yes, that's the thing, following your own nose.
Yeah.
And you know when you're not. I knew when I wasn't. People would compliment my realistic drawings or paintings and say how good they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always feel somewhere I would love the praise because
Yeah.
we do, don't we? I love the praise, but inside I'd be thinking, yeah, but I'm not a real artist, by which I meant I know this is not authentic. This is
I
me
was the
doing
same.
something
Yeah.
like
When
a trick that I can do. I can draw things. Okay.
I
Yeah.
felt the same. Did a few watercolor classes, did some life drawing classes, and people would go, "Oh," and I'd go, "Oh yeah, it does
Yeah.
look like it, doesn't it?"
It
But
looks like the thing it's supposed to be. Well
inside,
done,
I'd be
Dee.
like, "So what? So
Yeah.
what was the, if you like, so what was pulling me? Come on, yeah. There's loads of I can do that, but so what? If I
Yeah.
can't do what's really me in art, then it doesn't mean anything to me."
And now when I look at some of my paintings, I had some big ones on the go at the moment. There's one that feels completely contrived to me. I completely tried to repeat what I'd already done on one painting, again on the next one, and it's just contrived. I need to work on it. I need to just cover it all up and start again. There's one that feels totally authentic, not finished, but I look at it and it's me. I look at the other one and it's a pale imitation of what I think me should look like.
Yes.
That is the only way I can describe it. But that comes with time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dee Dee says, have you ever been afraid or worried that if you truly showed yourself in your art, people would think you're crazy or leave?
Well, not worried about it. Actually, I think that's to do with also what we were talking about at the beginning. In your life, if you truly let go and let rip, would people think you were crazy? Full stop. Just being you. So that translates into you wanting to be you in your painting. But if I'm all me in my painting, it'll be too much and they'll think I'm crazy. So that's you putting brakes on, you're crazy. I don't have any fear of that. I started making a lot of crazy. That's been my journey in the past 12, 18 months. It all changed for me completely. And then I just started drawing, as I said, experimentally and exploratory. And what started happening was I'd look and I'd go, oh, that looks a bit like an alien figure. And then I'd just draw around it and I'd emphasize it. And I got all these weird and wonderful beings, which I didn't have a purpose for making them. I wasn't trying to give a message to the world. It was just, oh, look, what's happening. And I'd just be sharing them all over the shop because there was no shame or worry that I might look crazy. And that's part of peeling away the reserve and the chains that we've tied ourselves down with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What's behind that question is kind of, if you flip it round, if I pretend not to be me, I can keep the people that are around me now.
Yeah.
If I fake it, people will stay with me. I mean, and it is true that if you completely are honest, some people might not stay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose that's true. You know, in some people's lives, there might be someone who won't like it if you're expressive. In most people's lives, though, I think we have people who affectionately think we're a bit crazy. I do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have people who think,
Yeah,
what's
we do.
that? What is that? What is she doing in there? You know, she's throwing paint around randomly. What's the point of that? They do think I'm a bit nuts. They think all of you are nuts for listening to me. They think it's all nuts, but you know, they don't know. I understand they don't know, so it doesn't matter. But there is when you change and fully express yourself, you will change your life in different ways. Sometimes people leave jobs they're not happy in. Sometimes people move house. Sometimes people just make a little space for themselves in their home to paint.
And
All sorts of
sometimes
things happen.
relationships that have been a bit sticky suddenly unstick themselves because
Yes.
you no longer give a damn about pleasing that person. You just show up and be you. And lo and behold, what you never would have expected, they're so much more at ease because
Yeah.
they can sense you're not trying to kind of work around them.
And a lot of spouses, we've had a lot of times spouses of both genders going, oh, I love how happy you are. Just keep doing it. Like, because she's so much happier now. And therefore I'm happier because the house is happier. But things will change and you never know in what direction. For
That's right.
me, my whole career changed, my whole marital situation changed, my home is changing now. So, you know, it's all change, but it's all good. Following your own self and being more authentic to yourself cannot be bad. I really never think it can be.
No, it can't because if we look on a more esoteric level, everything that exists has its own purpose, not somebody else's purpose. Have yours, have theirs. You know, a daffodil and a rose, whatever. You know, a giraffe and a cat, and every one of us has a unique fingerprint. And in art, we can call that our artistic voice. But there's a purpose in our life, even if it's not a grand, huge purpose that we can see and declare. We have a purpose in each moment and
Yes.
being uniquely and authentically ourselves. Oh, it just gives that sense that you are somehow fulfilling a purpose in that moment. And it doesn't have to go any further than that moment. And then it happens to the things you do in your life, the things you make in your life, including your art.
Harry's asked a question, which is, and then JC Watt, sorry, brought this up as well. Terry's asking, any suggestion to speed up the time to get to the don't give a damn stage? GC Watt said, you've just said years, eek. No, it doesn't take years to get to the point of not worrying, to get to the point of it. That can be as quick as the end of this week if you want it to be. It takes time and practice and effort to be a great painter, because why wouldn't it? You know, what else is there in life that you can be fantastic at and be in the top tier of and not practice to get there? Unless you are, you know, born a genius and you're Mozart or someone, and there are occasionally those people. But Van Gogh had to really work at being a painter.
Mm.
And so you can't, why would you, my question is, why would you want to speed up the journey? It's like saying, like, I'm in a beautiful area where I am now. We're going to go on a coach trip. We're going to all go all the way through the Lake District, past all the mountains. But then I put you in the coach, I hit beam me up Scotty, and we get to the destination and you didn't see any of the hills or the lakes or anything because we just got there really fast. We got there fast, but you didn't enjoy it. I think Irene will agree with me on this. Every moment on the journey when you learn something new and you achieve another step and your painting gets a bit more like you is joyful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss that. You don't want to skip past that. You want to just start. It's accepting where you are, Terry. That is the step. Accept where you are. Accept that you do give a damn now, and that's fine. And then just keep doing these exercises, keep practicing, keep playing, keep experimenting, and you will soon not give a damn.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a bit like saying, I had a really abusive childhood and I'm only just coming to realize that now. How quickly can I get to fixed?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to take a step at a time, and it's layers and layers and layers that get peeled back. And
that's the joy of it. You don't want to, I mean, there are certain things, of course, if you're in severe psychological pain that you want to get through as fast as possible. But this isn't severe psychological pain. This is just, my paintings aren't turning out the way I want them to, which is really not important, is it? Like Irene said earlier, let's not take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah.
Phyllis has often created, often secretly, all her life. However, now 70, I continue to struggle with saying out loud, I am an artist, and believe it. Am I blocked? I think that I struggled with that for a while. I didn't like saying that. I said I was a painter, but then people say, oh, do you paint houses? And you're like, oh, no, not that kind of painter. I didn't like saying I'm an artist. And even now, when I say I'm an artist, where I live, it's lots of farmers, lots of more down-to-earth people. They'll go, ooh, like, it still sounds pretentious to say.
That's right. And that might be what we feel a bit uncomfortable with.
Yeah. She thinks she's an artist. Well, I am. And I don't know, Phyllis. I think you say you've created often secretly, so you've been frightened to share sometimes or not confident about sharing. And I think you just have to practice it. It's another thing where first of all, you have to understand what you're worried about. Like Irene said before, why would it be a problem if you said it out loud? What would it mean if someone went, ooh, listen to her. Who does she think she is? What would that do to you? Why would that matter? And you dig down and you just do the work to kind of figure it out. And you start gently sharing a little bit more if you want to. If you want to, share more with other people. Let people see what you're doing. Choose supportive people to show things to, not people who are going to knock you down or make you feel, because there are those people. People around us sometimes don't like it when we change because it makes them feel unsafe. Because what we've been saying about your life will change when you start to express yourself, they know that on some level. They know, oh, you're changing, and where does this leave me? So there is reassurance to be done with people. Otherwise, they can be a little bit hurtful because they're wounded as well, and they're trying to keep you with them.
Yeah.
We're getting into a lot of deep stuff here, aren't we?
Oh, we are. But every one of these calls has its own flavour, doesn't it? You've got a different combination of the two. And it's just where it goes. And there'll be people tonight that this fits perfectly, and there'll be others who really.
I just want to know how to mix green.
Yeah.
But we did that in a video this morning.
Yes.
Barbara says, Barbara, I think I answered your question earlier in the video. So if you came in late, you might want to listen to where I was talking about when I realized what was holding back the wild inner artist and when I got to that new level of freedom. So just go back because I did talk about that. Oh, it jumped forward then and I lost some questions.
Yeah, there's just every time I look, there's still streaming on.
Some of them are kind of similar to what we've already. Amelia, please made a video of composition. So no, Amelia, not going to happen. And the reason is I made the acrylics and color videos because they help with the exercises that we're doing, but we're not trying to make paintings here. So composition would just get in the way. The reason I teach the way I do is that the freedom to play and experiment is the foundation of all creativity. I don't think you can do anything until you build that muscle. And then when I teach in the full course, and even some things on YouTube and in my online community, which will be open to all of you after this is over as well, I do teach about things like composition, but it's after you've got the confidence, mindset, ability to be free and experimental so that you can then have the bandwidth to, because what happens if I say composition, you will be bogged down in rules and thinking about the right way to do it. And that is not what we want at the moment. You just got to trust me on this, because I've seen a lot of people teach things the other way around, and it really does make it a struggle. It always blocked me, because then I'm thinking, am I getting it right? Like even with color, I've done something with you, simple color mixing stuff, but if I taught you all about color theory and the color wheel and all of that would start getting in your head and ruin any chance of you starting to tune into your own voice.
True.
Um,
My magpie's got a question about acrylic paint. I'm learning acrylic painting and finding the colors dry really flat. Is it the quality of paint that I'm using? And it might be.
might be. A lot of people say this about acrylics. I think if you've used oils before, it can seem flat. I do notice mine dry darker.
Darker, I would agree with. Yeah, I've never looked at anything I've painted and thought that it's the colors have been flat.
No, I think if you've got a nice pigmented paint, I'm sure it does look flat compared to oils.
Yeah.
The other thing, one thing I like to do is if you feel that, put a very thin coat of gloss medium over, which is just acrylic medium, and it will lift the colors and brighten them. And
Yeah.
then you can paint on top of that. And if you don't like painting on the glossy surface, you can very lightly rub at it with very fine sandpaper or a Brillo pad or something, just to knock some of that shine back off.
Fine steel wool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The acrylic medium does make you feel, oh, that looks better. It does immediately.
Is it difficult even now to ignore what you've learned before and just go for it, says Beverly? So yes, one of the things I always say to newer artists when they're in this course is if you look at something that a more experienced artist has done when they're playing, you go, God, theirs looks so good. And you think they're trying, but they're not, because you cannot unlearn what you know. So you cannot, once you know how color works, I cannot it's hard for me to not make color look good by putting the right things together, because I know what to do instinctively. Same for composition, although I'm not as good at that. But I do know when a composition's off and to correct it. And it's intuitive. So you can't unlearn that. And that's good, because it just becomes intuitive and second nature. But you can still play an experiment within that knowledge. So just because I know that this blue will look great next to that orange doesn't mean I can't throw it from a bucket from a great height, or, splatter it with a brush across the room, or stamp up and down on a wooden panel with my feet and paint with my feet. It's just that I know where to put the paint and what color to make it while I'm doing that.
Do you mind if I throw in a question, which is really
No, go ahead, please.
It's tied to these Q&A sessions, and I think it deserves us to say something about it. Sarah Gemmett asks, will all the questions be answered eventually? And the thing is, Sarah, that where you're asking your question is a chat stream. And as you know, it kind of flies really, really, really fast. And there's a lot of you. What Louise is doing constantly is trying to find questions that the answers to which will be most useful for most people. But we'd be lying if we said we could answer them all. And I believe that when the call ends, the chat ends with it, and we can't access the chat again.
Yeah.
And what I've said to some of the people in answers, in emails and so on, is we do our best to pick out typical questions that will help the most number of people. We also do our best, we plus the other coaches plus the moderators, to answer questions in the Facebook group. And you might get answers from tons of people, not just us, not just the people on the team. And I encourage people to ask questions in the Facebook group for that very reason, that they'll get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good variation of answers. But we as a small team and thousands of you taking the course haven't
Cannot
got
do
capacity,
everything for free.
to get to all of your questions, but we do look constantly and try and pull them out, okay?
And not to sound mercenary, but this is why I have paid offerings. So, like the membership that I run,
Oh
which
yeah.
we'll tell you about later, or the course that's coming up, because when somebody is actually invested, then I answer everything. Like we answer everyone. We
We
make
do,
sure
yeah.
that everyone gets an answer,
But
but
there are
we
far fewer
cannot
as
do
well,
that.
aren't there? There's
Yeah,
far fewer.
because there's far fewer, so we can do it, and that is what you're paying for. When
Yes.
we're doing something for free, we're trying to help as many people as possible. So, like Irene says, we're trying to get questions which we think will help many, many people rather than just one. And also, it's a bit about when it flicks through and what catches our eye while we're trying to manage the conversation, etc.
And it's 7:05, Louise, just so you know.
Yeah, so shall I pick one more question and then we should really wrap it up?
Yeah.
I'm looking for things that actually relate to what we're doing, because we get a lot of questions which are like about having an art career and how to use different materials. And um, this is probably a good one from Sheena, because you are, again, jumping ahead a bit from where we are now, because you say, I've got no problem starting or playing and experimenting, but finishing becomes a long drawn out process and loses the joy. Can you suggest how to keep it present throughout? Yes. When you have lost the joy and you've got on to finishing, you've gone off track. Because if it's become not flowful, not easy, not a lot of fun, you've lost the thread. What you've started to do is possibly, like me, push the painting till the end before it's ready. So you're trying to finish something that isn't ready to be finished. Maybe you're trying to finish something that isn't meant to be what you're trying to make it, because you're pushing it along. Maybe you're doing something you think other people will like, or there's all sorts of things you might be doing, but it shouldn't be unpleasant. It should just be fun until the moment where you step back and go, that's it.
Mhm.
Actually, you can't make it any better.
And sometimes you need a break from it for that to occur. That you know, you need to either put it somewhere where you can see it, but don't work on it and just glance at it every day, or turn it to the wall so you can't see it and then look at it after a few days. And it suddenly it suggests to you what you want to do next. And it's not necessarily a suggestion for finishing, it's just a suggestion for what to do next.
Yeah. Yes. Now, I had promised that I would give away a place on the Find Your Joy 12-week course. And in the course of this, I have a way of, I make myself just freeze a screen at a certain point, like in the comments, and then I just pick like the third person down from where we were. So it's fair. So I'm not choosing from personal taste. So I would like to offer a free place on the course to Dee. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Dee Meyer, Dee Meyer. So congratulations. I hope you'll join us. Jamie, my operations manager, will be in touch to sort that out with you. We don't have, you can't log in yet to the course, but she'll keep you on a list and let you know when you can. And I really hope it helps you move forward with your work. And everybody else, thank you so much for being here. We have really enjoyed this chat. The questions were absolutely brilliant. Sorry that we didn't get to everyone, but keep chatting in the Facebook group if you're in there. Underneath this video on YouTube, once we stop being live, you can leave comments and you can chat to each other in there, which is great. And I'm reading those and going in and commenting throughout the day, the following day. So do let us know what you think. Let us know what you're struggling with. Let us know what you're enjoying. And tomorrow we have a doozy of an assignment for you. Some of you are this is going to be breakthrough day for some of you. Some of you are going to not like me very much tomorrow, but you will thank me later. This is a really good assignment, and coming up the day after that, I will show you my demo to prove to you that I also do this on a regular basis. So with that mystery, we will leave you. Thank you, Irene. It's been a pleasure, as always.
It's been lovely, yeah. It just feels as though we've just had a really great conversation. And I hope through that we've answered some questions that weren't even asked.
Yes, I hope so. Okay.